Hey, you're on the Bible Forum. I'm Warren Sprouse. It's Halloween time. It's that Sunday before Halloween. We just finished talking about Halloween in specific. But I would like to talk to you now about your fear. Every year, apparently, the Chapman University conducts a survey of American fears. It's an in-depth examination into the concerns of average Americans, tracking the changes and the trends over the decades. The survey asks participants about topics including government, health, environment, disaster preparedness, the paranormal, and personal anxieties. So, what's the number one thing that Americans fear? For the fourth year in a row, that dishonor goes to government corruption. The fear far exceeds any other asked about in the survey. In 2018, 73.6% of Americans said they fear corrupt government officials the most. In 2017, it was 74.5. In 2016, it was 60.6. It's getting worser. Dr. Christopher Bader, who is a professor of sociology, says, "It is worth noting that the fears regarding corruption and the environment have increased significantly over the past few years, and all top 10 fears continue to reflect topics often discussed in the media. Pollution of oceans, rivers, and lakes, polluted drinking water, money worries, the loss of loved ones are high on the list. But there are other fears that Americans have. 52% of us are concerned about cyber terrorism, largely because we are so connected to our electronic equipment. 52% of us are worried about being involved in another world war. 49% are concerned about Islamic extremism and the extremists that push it. 49% worry about white supremacists. 49% are concerned about the economic financial collapse. We're not really collapsing right now, but this was something apparently that was done earlier. 47% are concerned about identity theft. 46% about corporate tracking of personal data. 46% about government's tracking of personal data. We can largely control identity theft and tracking of personal data. We can get a handle on that. You ain't never going to stop the government from finding out stuff. We got too many forms, too many things we have to fill out, too many licenses and permits and things. They're going to get you. People are right now, a large percentage of people are trying to determine what their heritage is. And you swab your mouth and put it in a thing and send it off to this company, and they track you. They're using DNA. They keep a record of your DNA. Is that okay? Oh yeah, that's all right. You don't really think the government can come in and just say, give it to me one day? They'll know all about you. But then you can't stop that stuff anyway. It doesn't bother me. I don't really care. Because this is one of those areas you can't control for anyway. 43% are worried about widespread civil unrest. About the same percentage is concerned about nuclear weapons attacks and about random mass shootings. 39% worry about the collapse of the electrical grid. 38% are concerned about a pandemic or a major epidemic. And 37.8% worry about the government's restrictions on firearms and ammunition. Do you know Americans own more guns than all the military in this country and at least 2 or 3 others? It's one of the reasons our forefathers wisely gave us the ability to own weapons. It wasn't to protect us from the North Koreans. It was to protect us from our government. These guys had been through it. Their history in Europe, all of these things. It was the government that came in and took what they wanted. And they very wisely said that American citizens had the right to bear arms. I don't think you need 25 of them, but it wouldn't hurt to have one. And 36% are concerned about nuclear accidents or meltdowns. Did you notice the majority of these fears are being played on in the media with regularity? They bring out these things we probably would never consider if they didn't keep pushing on it all the time. If they never brought it up, we wouldn't think about it. Wouldn't be a problem. Are they important issues? I think so. Don't you? Can we do anything about them? Well, for the most part, no. But solid, intact marriages would. Objective moral standards throughout the culture would. Do we dare advocate for such things? No. I have my rights. Look at the list. The white supremacists, the identity theft, the tracking of personal data, the civil unrest list, the random mass shooting list, as well as a number of lesser moral and social issues that would be seriously curtailed if the traditional family structure were still intact. More so if that family structure reflected godly values and biblical principles. There would be a lot less divorcing going on. There would be a lot less of babies being born out of wedlock. There would be a lot less of thievery. Might even be a lot less of car accidents if people adopted biblical values and character. The survey also explored the reasons people do not evacuate when a disaster is coming their way. You guys ran away from that last hurricane? The most commonly cited reason for not going, 43% of Americans said they wanted to protect their homes from looting. In 1954, Hurricane Hazel came through my neighborhood. Vicious form. If you lived in Wilmington, North Carolina, or any place between there and Canada, you know about Hurricane Hazel. Vicious, vicious storm. Nobody ever seen anything like it. Nobody worried about people looting. Everybody was out helping everybody else. That was 1954. 34% of Americans are concerned about their pets. As for political division, the survey revealed something that concerns the researchers, which is that, quote, what frightens Republicans the most doesn't even register on Democrats, and vice versa. You see, there's an increasing bifurcation, meaning the issue or area that divides people among Americans. Dr. Bader admitted that this frightens him, meaning we are increasingly a mob, not a culture. And all of that is deliberate. You say, we just evolved. We didn't evolve this way. It's deliberate. And not to choose one political party over another, because they're both the same in the sense that they are political parties, and there are people within those parties that have vested interest in telling you the truth that is best suited to them and doing the things that would most likely encourage their tribe. But it is deliberate. Deliberately being influenced from outside. You see, human beings are born not with God consciousness. Human beings do not come into this world all fluffy and nice and holy and godly, and they learn to be evil. Human beings come into this world evil, devoid of anything divine. They grow up, and if they are not nurtured, directed in a certain way, they won't ever think about God. And the only time they'll mention His name is when they're angry. That's what human beings are. They're basically a mob. And they're not very nice. We have to train our children to be decent and respectful and polite, and to do what is right, objectively right. Leave them alone, and that little 2-year-old will take a hammer and beat his sister to death. Maybe accidentally, but maybe in a fit of anger. You ever see a 2-year-old's anger? If they had a gun, they'd shoot you. That's the human heart. And it needs to be modified, mollified. It needs to be changed. And until it is, these kinds of statistics and all the other things that are even worse than we've talked about right here this evening, are going to continue, and they're going to get worser. I've been on this planet for 75 years. Trust me, it is way worse today than it was in 1947 or 53. And it's not going to get better till Jesus comes.